Hi and welcome to this video of Unit 2, Topic 3, Univariate Data. In this video we'll be talking about mean, median and mode and a little bit of technology use. Okay, so measures of centre. There's three main measures of centre: the mean, the median and the mode. And I expect you've probably seen them before. I've got two example data sets here just to be able to exemplify a couple of components of this. So first of all, the mean. There's a couple of things we need to know about the mean. And the first one, and the main one, is to calculate the mean, we just need to do x bar is equal to the sum of x over n. Now, before you fall off your seat, let me explain a couple of things. Firstly, this symbol is the sum of. And so when we do our calculation at the moment, we're going to sum these numbers together. X just represents the variable these data points. So x is just one of these numbers. We want to sum x, we want to sum the numbers that x could be. And there they are. N. N's our standard for our number of numbers. For lack of a better way of writing this, that represents how many numbers there are. And in this case it's 5, and in this case it's 6. So n just represents that number of numbers, and that n definition will carry the whole way through your statistical careers. And then of course there's x bar here. So we write it as x with a bar. Now I'm using x here. It could be a bar and sum of a, but x is our standard again. We work with standards in maths, and so this is just x bar, and it's the mean. So it's the way we call our mean, what we call our mean. So there's some definitions there. And in this case, our mean, x bar, is equal to the sum of our data points over n, which equals the sum of these values. 3 plus 8 is 11 plus 9 is 20, plus these two, which is 29, makes 49 over how many there are, which is 5, and of course that is 9.8. So that's how we calculate our mean for this data set. Now if I have a close look at this, 9.8, does it fit in with the data set? 17 and 12 do drag the value up from that centre point, so yeah, 9.8 is a very reasonable answer, and I'm very happy with it. Just a really quick check for reasonableness. And of course down here, my x bar is equal to the sum of the sum of x over n, which in this case is the same numbers but with an additional 12, so that would make it 61 over 6, which is equal to 10.167, or 17 to 2 decimal places. But it's actually 10.1666667, or 10 and 1/6. Now I can see that extra 12 data point that I didn't have here has dragged that mean up a little bit more. So that's a very reasonable answer as well. So there we have our calculation of the mean and those three important definitions: x bar, the sum of, and n. Now we have our median. And moving on to our median, here's how we'll typically find our median point. N plus 1 over 2, that hopefully is pretty simple. But then I throw a bracket around this, put a little th, and I write value. So you will have learnt the median as the central value. And the median in this data set is equal to 9, because 9 is our centre value. So that's pretty easy because there's 5 values. But if you want a really defined way of doing it, particularly with a large data set, you're going to see this more. The n plus 1 over 2th value. So in this set there are 5 numbers, so n is 5. So in this set we have the 5 plus 1 over 2th value, and when we simplify that, that is the 3rd value, but of course when we're using 3 we don't use a we use an RD, the 3rd value. And the 3rd value in this data set, 1, 2, 3 is 9. That's pretty easy. Now with an odd number and with a small data set, we probably don't have to worry about this, but with a larger data set it does become important. Or with an even number, because here we've got a problem. We've got 6 values, so if we cross off, we come into the centre, we have 9 and 12. In the middle of 9 and 12 is our median. But you see that more specifically by saying 6 plus 1 over 2, because there are 6 numbers, and 6 plus 1 over 2 is the 3.5 value. And the 3.5 value here is there. So to get that value, we just take the 3rd and the 4th, and we take their average. So that will be equal to 9 plus 12 over 2, which is 10.5. So it's 10.5 is the median of this data set, whereas 9 is the median of the top data set. So nothing too hard, all the stuff we've done before, but just a couple little additional nuanced pieces of language. And of course we had the mode, which I hope you see is the most common, and it's also, I'd say, probably usually the easiest. So if I go at the top here and see 3, 8, 9, 12 and 17, there is technically no mode. Or maybe there's 5 modes because they're all equally common. So mode's really quite a useless data value in this particular set. Down here though, we do have a mode, and that is these 12s. So the mode is 12. Now if this data set had an additional 3 in here, well, it would be called a bimodal data set. So just be wary that you might see a data set with 2 modes, and that's called bimodal. Of course, if there's 3 modes, it's called trimodal, and so on. So there's some measures of center. So when it comes to using technology, predominantly you'll need to be able to use this particular calculator or a variant on this calculator, which is a school-based calculator that we use. You may learn on spreadsheets or you may learn using online programs, but realistically in your exams you'll be using the Casio. Now, I'm going to show you on this particular version, but it's very, very similar on most calculators. The first thing we need to do to calculate a mode is go into the mode setting here. You'll see 3 options, and we're going to click Statistics, number 2. From here, we've got a lot of options. We're not too worried about these. For the course, we're doing 1 variable, and A plus BX will be the 2 that you use. So we're going to choose 1 variable, which is 1, and then we're going to enter some data. So I'm just going to add some data in, as close as I can remember the data set we've just been using. And I'll do 5 data points, and there they are. Okay, now this is the scary bit. You have to trust that your calculator saves this data and press the AC button. Now to access the statistics, I need to go Shift 1, which accesses the stats menu and is based on the data that I currently have. If you need to slightly update your data, you can select 2. If you need to change the type that you're focusing on, you can press 1. But by clicking Shift 1, Stats, I can access item 4, which will give me access to X bar, and later on my standard deviations. So I select 2 here, get my X bar, press enter, and the average is 9.2. So if you need to calculate any measures of center in your exam, this is a really good way to do it. Well, thanks for joining me on this amazing adventure. See you next time.